here's our blank paper again, with a little bit of a ghost from some drawing that my daughter did on it. But we're going to work around that. So the thing that you want to do first is to look for your biggest shapes in your arrangement in your still life. So looking at my arrangement here, the biggest shape that I would probably want to start with, that's also going to give me a sense of where other things are, is my bowl. And the reason I'm going to start with my bowl is because you can see that the banana is right up against the bowl and kind of in relationship to it, and the box is off to the side, and also the bowl is the highest thing in my composition. So I'm going to start with that because it will be the easiest for me to relate everything else to. So whatever you've set up, if you want to look for the largest object, it's probably the best way to start. Look for the thing that's the biggest, start with the lines for that one, and then you can really figure out how big and how long other areas, other lines are going to be. So I'm going to start with my bowl, and I'm just going to pause this so you can see what I've done with that part. So I'm just putting kind of the curve of my bowl right now. So here's my bowl, and here's that top curve, and I'm not going to fill in the back yet. I'm just putting that top curve, and then I'm sketching in lightly where the sides of that curve are coming down and estimating where the bottom of my bowl is going to be. So these lines are going to come down to that bottom line. There's my curved line that shows the sort of the space, the circle, this oval that's at the top of my bowl, and then how these lines are going to meet down to that. So this is the first thing that you want to do. Whatever object you have, like if you decided to just have, you had a box and a banana, and your box is the biggest thing, you want to start by just saying, okay, where's the biggest line? Where's the largest area on that object? And for this box, it would be this side. It's the closest to you. It's the most precise. Then you would go to this one. But since I have 3 objects, I'm going to start with my bowl, like I said, and just sketch that line in, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. So here's my bowl again with a little bit more work. So I've started to pull this line, and you can see like artists do this all the time. We don't commit to any specific line until we've really worked out where it's going to be. Like I just drew that and I'm not happy with it. I don't think that's right. And as you can see, I can't even really see that behind that banana, but I can tell that it doesn't match up with this side. So you're just kind of sketching out where you think that line should be, because even artists, we can't figure this out right away. And looking at the object again and saying, okay, how does that curve happen? So as you can see, this area here, it's an oval. I'm not looking at the very direct top. Like if I were looking down at the bowl, it would be more of a circle, but since I'm looking at it from the side, it's an oval. So this is my oval shape that I've started to draw for the side of mine, and then I'm going to match this down. So I'm going to pause this again, do a little more work, and come back. Okay, I have worked a little more into this, tried to figure out where this curve's going to go, and you can see I've done a lot of sort of sketching things in and erasing them. I'm starting to see the lip of my bowl, which is very defined, and I'm also starting to match up these 2 sides, where this is going to go and where this is going to go. And since I don't see that side right there where the banana is, I'm going to leave that open for right now. And the next thing I'm going to do is start to look at the shape of the banana. Now I want you to look when you're drawing a second object, especially if it's close to the first one that you started drawing, where does that object start in relationship to that first object, and where does it end? So with this banana, it starts here and it's actually leaning up against my bowl. So I'm going to want to really notice on here this little area where the top of this banana meets up with the lip of the bowl, and then this side where it actually comes, if you look at this at the lip of the bowl again and draw a straight line in your mind down, you can see that the end of the banana basically ends right around that same location. So when I do my sketch, I'm going to want to make sure that the banana is close to, if I drew a straight line, the end of it would be close to that particular invisible line coming down. And then the top of it is going to come and hit up here. So I'm going to just do a little sketching of that next, and then I will show you again. So here's the beginning step of the shape and lines of this banana, and you can see that I've moved over, I've had to move this section over a little bit from where I originally thought it might be, because it's closer to the edge of and the side of the bowl than I had originally thought. And then also I've sketched in the line for the stem, and it's interesting, this is so much like, when you think of a shape of banana, I really wanted it to come out further, but I knew I had to stop right around here. So it looks like I can extend it a tiny bit, but the banana is really going to end right around that location. So you want to look and really compare where things are in relationship to each other. That's going to help you the most in figuring out how these shapes are going to look and where they stop and where they start. So you can also see that I have found a really interesting way to get this banana's shape, which is to draw the lines that make up those different sections of the banana. So here and here and here, there's these three sides that you can kind of see that are showing. The brightest one's this one right here, it's closest to the light, and then there's one underneath here, and this one's the darkest. So you're going to sketch that out if you have something like a fruit, whatever, a piece of fruit, or what other objects you might have put in relationship to the first one, and just work out where those different lines are going to go. And if you're doing something different than this, which I'm hoping that you are, you're doing the same kind of thing. You're just basically working out the lines first to define those shapes, and then you're going to start shading later. So the next thing that I'm going to tackle is this box, and as you can see, it's overlapped a little bit by both of those other objects. It's the closest to me. The bowl is a little higher than it is, and the banana is a tiny bit lower. So I'm probably going to start by just figuring out where this line's going to be, and also look at these parallel lines. So there's always, when an object is a box of any kind, a rectangular box, any kind of cube, you're going to notice these lines that are going back into space, and they're never usually straight. So what I'm doing right now is using my pencil to compare and look what direction and how those lines are going back into space. They're going back in perspective, so the one at the bottom is going to be a tiny bit more, I don't know what the word is, it's a little bit more, just a little sharper of an angle than the top one, because the top one is closer to your eye. So you're going to see that this one is similar to the one across from it, and then the one on the bottom, you're not going to see anything to compare it to, but if you were to draw a box without any walls, it would be parallel to that one. And then this one is going to be matching up that line, invisible line, with this line that we see here. So I'm going to go ahead and do just the lines for that box, and then we'll come back again. I've gone ahead and drawn the top section of my box here, and I've really tried to see where this intersects with the bowl and where it touches up against this banana, and the lines, how they are going back into space. So this one's going back into space like that. I tried to match it up pretty well with how I could see it in space there, and then this one, as I said before, should be parallel to the first one. And since my box has this little curve, I'm still kind of working out where that curve's going to go and how that's going to fit in. The next thing that I'm going to do is figure out this front space, so the line that comes down from this corner, which any lines that are going vertically are going to go up and down pretty straight if you're looking straight at them. So this one, as you can see, is right in front of me. So it is going to be straight up and down. And the trick is just going to be figuring out where it ends. So I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to also work on this front section here where this line's going to go, and then we'll come back and look one more time. So now I've worked out the lines of my box, and I've worked out first this front line here, and then I went over and started looking at these lines, and I still am not quite happy with this line yet, because as you can see, it's really a little bit more of an angle than I have, so I'm going to need to pull that in a little bit and change that. But one thing that I did do, and you can do this too, it might help, is to make my ghost lines. So remembering that this line, if I have a rectangle, is going to be the same angle. This one will be the same angle as this one. So you can kind of sketch that line in to see where it should go. And then this line is going to be the same angle as this one. And that will give you the information about where this corner should be. So it made me realize that I needed to erase a whole bunch of this particular top of the box that I thought would have been there, but it's not. So that will help you a little bit with if you have an object that has lines like this that are going back into space. After that, so I'm going to go back in and work on this a little bit more, and then I'm going to go back and look at my bowl again and try to get some of my details, like the details being the lip of that bowl. And in my banana, I'm going to really try to find some of those lines a little bit better, like where they should go and what they should look like. And my box has all that writing and stuff, but I'm going to wait on that until I do the shading. So this step, I'm going to work a little more, but this is your first part of this lesson. So once you have finished this up, once I'm done with the next part, I'm going to tell you that you'll need to stop and wait for the next video, okay? Here is my drawing a little bit later. I've done some sketching to get this angle of my box a little bit better, and I'm still not totally happy with it, but it looks better to me than it did. And then I'm also working on the top lip of this bowl, which if you look at it from an angle like I'm doing, the part that's closest to you right here is going to be wider because it's like you can see over that edge of it, but you can't see over this edge because of the angle of your eyesight. So this whole lip is going to be larger than the lip that's on the opposite side of your bowl, and if you have anything that goes back into space in that way, that same thing's going to happen. That it will be smaller on the further side from you than it is on the other side, similar to like why this is an oval and not a circle. And then I've also sketched in, worked a little bit more on the end of this banana and how it's going to relate to the box that's underneath there. I just want you folks to work a bit more on these kinds of things, and then the next thing is going to be to find the edge of your table or whatever your objects are sitting on, because the one really important thing that all artists do when they do a still life is to put it into the context. So they're not just objects kind of floating in space, but they're in relationship to the things that are around them. So as you can see, mine are right up against the edge of this table. I'm going to draw in the line of the table in relationship to the objects, and that's going to be my last step for this part of the lesson. Here is my drawing a little bit later. I've worked on a few different things. One is I did look at that back line of my table and figured out that the reason I was having trouble with that box is because there's more space from the edge of my table to the top of that box than there is where my bowl is. So the top of, or the edge of the table actually goes behind that bowl, and I have a little bit of space between the box and the edge of the table on that side. So I needed to adjust a lot of things, and I did some erasing in here and redrawing of my box, and now I'm a bit happier with it. I still don't know, I feel like it needs to be a little more narrow, but I am happier with it than I was. And you I'm hoping that you'll do the same thing, that you can adjust things, really look and see where all those lines are going to be in relationship to each other so that you can create those shapes and start to make it look three-dimensional just with the lines. And as you can see, I started to do a tiny bit of shading in here, just so that I could see how it was going to look once I do a little bit more shading next class. But this is the point that I want you to be at with your drawing, and just get all of those lines in as well as you can. Your 2 or 3 objects, or if you want to try to do more, you can do more, of course, and then the line of the back of the table. So that is it for this class, and thanks so much for listening. Hope you all are doing well.